want to talk to you today about a really serious topic, one that most people don't like to talk about: your will or living trust. Or, you know, are you planning to live forever? or or think you've got plenty of time, you don't need a will, it's necessary. We all need a will. And I admit I was one of those people that for the longest time was like, I don't need a will. I mean, if I die, well, it'll eventually get to my parents and, my family because they're the only relatives I have, right? But the fact of the matter is, then it would have to go through probate. If you die intestate, it's got to go through probate so people can, fight for it. And that costs money. It costs them money. And, I certainly don't want to do that. So I finally broke down. And I broke down about a year or so ago, a couple of years ago. And lawdepot.com is an easy way to do it. And I get nothing out of this. You can pay $50 and you can have access to it for 10 years. And if you do have a will, when was the last time you looked at it? Because you really should update your wills, your insurance policies, all those things about every 5 years. So that's why I paid for it for 10 years. So that gives me time that if I change my mind, I can go in there and change it without a problem. Now, what you do have to do is when it's there, having it online is not, that's not the end of it. Then you have to print it out, go have it notarized, and put it someplace where people know where it is. Now, I originally kept mine in my safe deposit box. And I realized that nobody in my family knows where the key is. Most of them probably don't even know I have a safe deposit box. And I was reading an article written by a financial advisor whose father had been a financial advisor. And his father made the comment of the will being in the secret safe. And the son, who wrote the book, was like, what secret safe? And he'd been in business with his father. He knew all about these things, but he had no clue there was a secret safe in his parents' home that he grew up in. So think about that. You have to let somebody know where it is. They have to be able to have access to it. So that's an important thing. And now a living trust, in case you're not sure, is basically, very, 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 very basic definition, is it's setting up everything so that you are still in control of everything. Nothing happens until you die, but then everything flips over and it costs them less money. They don't have as much taxes to pay on it and those kind of things. Like if you're leaving large amounts of money in a will, they may have estate taxes to pay, whereas the living trust lowers that. In a nutshell, it's a very, very, very tiny thing. The best thing to do, of course, is find an attorney. Now, it will cost you a lot more than $50 for 10 years. You figure $50 for 10 years, that's $5. There's also Legal Shield. Before I get to the attorney, Legal Shield, I think, is about $25 a month. Again, I have no dog in this fight. I just happen to know a little bit about it, little teeny tiny bit about it. So if you happen to be on here and you're a Legal Shield person, consultant, I don't know what the word would be. If you happen to get people involved in Legal Shield, feel free to comment underneath this. It's about $25 a month and you get access to attorneys. So they can do your will. But if you go downtown, your local town, to an attorney, it's probably going to cost you somewhere between $1,500 and $2,500 to have a will done, or a legal or a living trust done. So, but it's worth it, So start saving your nickels and dimes so that you can do that if you haven't done it already. And then with the living trust, of course, you have to put everything into the trust name so that it's there. And then your will just leaves the whole trust to whoever these people are, or splits it up or whatever. So here's the thing. If you don't have a will, what you're basically saying to those people you love when you die, is, hey, I really loved you guys, but I just never got around to doing this because I didn't want to think about dying, or I was too lazy to do it. So, hey, love you, but you guys figure it out on your own. Fight it all out. So if you love your family members and you want them to have something when you're gone, make sure that you put it in a legal document. Don't just tell people, oh, when I'm gone, you can have this. When I'm gone, you can have this. When I'm gone, I want this split up this way. Because it may or may not happen if you just tell people. And, it doesn't matter if you're 95, it doesn't matter if you're 25. You should start having some sort of will. You can handwrite one if you don't have a whole lot of stuff, um, but you want to make sure that things go to certain people. You can handwrite it out, go have it notarized, and just keep it someplace where it's obvious to find. As you get more money, more stuff, then you want to make it more formal. And I know it's, like I said, it's a topic that a lot of people don't want to think about because they think about, well, my will only goes into effect when I'm dead. So how much do I want to think about this? But the fact of the matter is, it is truly necessary. And the main reason that people don't do it is just pure laziness. They put it off. I'll do it later. I'll do it later. I'll do it later. But I was reading that same article, something like, and I could have the numbers slightly off, but it was like 3 out of 4 people, 75% of Americans die without a will. Okay, you might say, well, 25% of those probably didn't have a whole lot to leave. Well, not a whole lot is still something, but the other 50% probably did have a lot, but they chose not to do this. In this same article, they were talking about one lady her husband had died, and he had been an attorney who did wills. He did financial planning. He did this stuff for people. He wrote wills and wrote living trusts, and he never did his own. And when he died, his wife was blindsided because it turned out that not only had he not done one, he had also taken out a second mortgage on their home to pay for new things in his law office. And his partners, yes, he had partners, but when he died and his partners discovered all this debt that he had on his personal home, they dissolved the partnership and left. So she was left high and dry with nothing and had to fight for whatever she could get, because he hadn't made a will. He hadn't done these things, and she knew nothing about what was going on with the financial planning in the family. So check out lawdepot.com. Check out Legal Shield. Call local attorneys or paralegals. A lot of times you'll have a paralegal office in your town where they'll do the same thing. They'll write your will for less money than a full-fledged attorney will. So check those out and see what you can do. And what I challenge you to do is within the next 48 hours. So this is Tuesday. So by Thursday, that you have at least gone online and looked at Law Depot or Legal Shield, or you have made a phone call, do at least one thing within the next 48 hours towards your will. Another thing you might want to do is make a list of the people that you want to leave things to. Just have your list so that when you talk to the attorney, you can do that. You will have your list ready. I have a list of 4 people and about 16 organizations where I want to leave money. And it's fine too, like I can go onto my investments and I can set beneficiaries, but I can only set up to a maximum of 10 beneficiaries. Like I just said, I have 4 people and 16 entities. So I currently have a will, but I'm seriously considering changing that and having a living trust. Well, not changing it, but having a living trust so that everything then goes into the trust. Haven't done that yet, but I'm seriously considering it as I think more about living trust. So let me go put in my call to an attorney so I can talk about that more, and I'll talk to you later. I hope you have a lovely day, and I'm Dr. Beverly Whitson, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.